Hi, I'm Joshua Ponsafo of the New African Concept. I believe strongly that you've been blessed so far with the various episodes of the Voice of Reformation. And I'm very much excited to inform you that with the next 3 months ahead, February, March, and then April, there is a special package in the area of apologetics. I know you have several questions on your mind, and so do I. For the month of February, we'll be considering the subject area of the Bible. So questions like, is the Bible truly the Word of God, or it is just a figment of human beings? And that, how did we even arrive at getting our Bible today? There are various versions of the Bible, and how did we even get that? And are they the same? Are they similar? Or they are different? In the month of March, we'll also be looking at the subject of black skepticism. I believe you've heard and seen that there is a new wave that is called the woke or black consciousness, the new form of Pan-Africanism, where they are hitting strongly that for Africa to advance, we must do away with everything called religion, particularly the Christian faith. Was Christianity carved by the white man in order to rule or manipulate the black man? Is it true that we have the Bible and in several churches doing the biddings of the white man? Is it even true that Christianity impedes growth or otherwise? Join me this and every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Voice of Reformation as we look at these subjects. We have able facilitators, the likes of Elder Emmanuel Emisa, Pastor Jacob Honey, Pastor Patrick, Mark Edubuating, and then Kafui Tay. The good thing is also that the last Friday of every month, you get an opportunity to join in by bringing on board your questions so that we ask them for serious interactions. I believe that with all these interactions, the ultimate goal is that Ghana and by extension Africa will be liberated and saved. See ya. All right, a very good evening once again to you all. This is your brother and friend Joshua of the New African Concept, and today is another Friday. We come your way with yet another edition of the Voice of Reformation. The Voice of Reformation presents as a platform where we get to enlighten ourselves, inform ourselves, and then have sound discussion concerning the subject of nation building. Because where our country is heading towards, where Africa is heading towards, it is a golden opportunity. At the same time, it is a ticking time bomb. It is a golden opportunity if we have some of these conversations and then we align ourselves right. It is a ticking time bomb if we allow things to continue business as usual. Today, we will be having set of discussions. We want to have more or less like a discussion around what I've chosen to call the burden of change. The burden of change. When you come on board, you do well and then share the link for others to also join in, so follow what we are doing and then saying. And then also you can also join even in the discussion by sending your comments, or possibly you could also click on the link, the StreamYard link would have been pinned, or I think it happens to be the first comment down there. at the comment section. You can just join in through that one as well. And I believe that we'll be able to move from there. So the very elements that are needed to keep things running for now will be in three sessions. I'll lay some basic foundations, after which we will then open the room or the floor for people to also join in. Yes. Now, when we consider how things have been and how things are going, by this time, I'm sure you would have known our stand as a New African concept. Our stand is that, yes, I think I saw Kweku Richardson joining in. I left. You can join in, come in at any time, and then okay, I can see that we are picking up. All right. So I'll pick you up soon. Okay, so this is it. That when we look at things, we've already said by this time that nations are successful not because of their geographical locations. It is not because of their locations of their natural resources, but rather the quality of their value systems. Repetitions are made for emphasis. That is why we keep on repeating over and over and over again, so that these things can come into the mind. Remember, tonight we are having a sound discussion on the burden of change. How do we practically initiate the change that we are having? We have one of our stakeholders. He is also privileged to be exposed to the Western world, and I think he'll be joining in very soon, so that he also shares his perspective, at least from the diaspora, that concerning what are some of the practical ways that we can use to advance ourselves as a people. Where do we exactly begin from? These are the discussions. Now the discussions should is it possible? Should we do it? Can we do it? By this time, these are, questions that should be a done deal. The question should be, okay, if we are to do it, for which we are to do, looking at the sense of urgency attached to it, where do we exactly begin from? And how do we go about it? Because the African predicament or the Ghanaian menace, it is very complicated and complex. So the question is more of where are we starting from and what are the practical ways? So anyone who gets the opportunity to join in today, I believe that we'll be sharing thoughts around it. Then I also throw in a few. I just want to lay the foundations with these two statements, and then we take on our brother. One, nations are not successful because of loans, because of the monies that are pumped in from IMF, from foreign countries. That is not what makes a nation successful. It is true that you can be in a period of financial or economic hardship that may require that as an interim adjustment. But how can we forgive ourselves if we have been to the IMF for a whopping 17 times? Post-independence, it tells us that is not what makes a nation successful. Nations are not successful because they have natural resources. In fact, in economics, there is what we call the reverse curse, or the curse of abundance, where it is being said that people or nations with more natural resources normally even tend to be the poorest. So it is not the natural possession of natural resources that really determines the success of a nation. Then what really determines the success of a nation? It is not the geographical location, that these people have deserts, these people are in the tropics, these people, of course, there are many countries in the Arabian Peninsula that is more of a desert that are more successful. Talk of Kuwait, talk of even Dubai, talk of even Israel, with more than 60 to 70% of their land being, deserts. But they are able to teach us higher and sophisticated agricultural tenets more than Africa, with more than 75% of arable land. So the conclusion is that it is not the geographical location of the country, though it may play a contributing role, but that is not it. It is not the, money pumped in by foreigners or foreign agencies like IMF and World Bank. No, it is not the natural resources that the country has that really determines it. Rather, it is the quality of our value systems. Rich values will beget rich, nations. Poor values will produce poor nations, and then weak values will also produce weak nations. So that is very fundamental. My last statement before we move on is that in a democratic setting, just as we have in Ghana and in many places, especially in Africa, there is a portfolio, there is a position which is stronger and higher and more potent than even the post of the president, and that is the people, because democracy is a government by the people, of the people, and for the people. So in an autocracy, everything rises and falls with leadership, but in democracy, everything rises and falls with the people. Democracy has not really been of significant help to African countries, not because democracy is not good or meant for Africa. It is because we have not taken the pains and responsibility to what? To go through the demands of, democracy. It is not possible that we can be anticipating to enjoy the fruit of democracy without bearing the responsibilities that comes with democracy. The people, the people, the people. In democratic setting, leadership is more of a catalyst than the miracle wagon. It is more of a catalyst than the miracle, wagon. Yeah, so this, as I said, is the voice of information. You can join in. I will try getting on board. Yeah, so Mr. Richardson, if you can hear me.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I trust you are
Hey,
doing very well.
I'm doing well. Just a bit under the weather, actually. Yeah, that's why I'm logged in today
Oh,
because
that's
I
fine.
wasn't working. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I didn't even intend to,
Uh,
participate. Yeah, because usually around this time, busy at work. It's just I'm a bit under the weather, so um kind of relaxing now, but I just thought,
okay.
yeah, let me just log in and listen to you guys, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I've been listening to it.
Okay.
The few times we've talked and all that, my I have just that one thing that I always put in that we talk about values and all that. To me, I always believe systems, controls are the ones that naturally drive values because, human beings are born and all that. But when you put things in place, it automatically drives people to change their behaviors. You know, you can't just bring someone in and either by way of, their religion or morals or anything like that, and then they are forced to act in a particular way. But to help them out, you want to put in some systems, you want to put in some things in place. And that is what, with time, automatically drives people's behavior and change. So let's assume, even when we say, hey, the things that Christianity church has done you know, for the past, as far as schools, things they've done and all that, it did not succeed just by the mere fact that they were all Christians and all that, whether they are Catholic schools, Presbyterian schools, Methodist schools, and all that. What made them succeed is if they built a Methodist school or a Presbyterian, there were laws, rules, processes, procedures that governed it. That is really what made the Christian school to succeed. These are values. And then with time, when people go through those systems and place, let's say St. Augustine, St. Mary, that what really made them prosper and progress was the value, the things that they instituted, the processes. Students need to be here at this time. If you don't make it, guess what? You will be punished. You will be this, that. It wasn't because there was nothing in place and they just relied on the fact that they were attending Holy Child or St. Mary's, so they have to be holy and they have naturally have good morals for them to have a good things in place for them to come out as good citizens. It was because the school had things in place, controls, rules that govern them. That's what brought them naturally to be good citizens at the end of the day. So, let's always think if you are doing anything whatsoever, and you do not put systems in place, and you are just relying on people's moral for them to naturally, you know, either because of their religious background, they will be good or bad, that is you are pushing it. People, human beings are human, they will default. Everything you have to put system in place. If there's COVID and you pump in money, you have to make sure you follow through with accountability as far as where is the money going. Even when they distribute it to hospitals, roads, you have to follow through to determine how they were used. And that's when, if things don't go right, people are prosecuted and all that. So, other systems, when they are getting, things are working out well, it's not because, they are morally right, but it's the system that with time has changed their moral values, so to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's very, very informational and then very pivotal. I think we can have a bit of discourse around the subject of the system controls. Which one, therefore, comes first? For instance, as we are talking about the system controls, don't you think that the example that you're giving with the secondary schools, the Prempeh College, the Holy Child, and then all these, there is a set of values that we seek to advance or imbibe into the students. Then once those values are designed, then now it is set into the cascade of these system controls. So which one comes
Yeah,
first? Because if
yeah.
the values
Mhm,
are wrong in first place, then
mhm,
the system will only be enforcing something which will be debilitating. So maybe I'm getting
okay.
the twist that vanity values should not just be left by way of open propagation with the assumption that, oh,
Mhm,
once we are propagating those values or talking about it, it will naturally get instilled in the people. But whatever values that we believe that they are the drivers of nation building, there should be a system to shall I say, keep it running to in order to imbibe it in the people. Is that where you are coming from, or
yeah,
maybe
I
I've gotten
mean,
it wrong? Look at
no, you're
practical bits.
right. I perfectly understand, where you're coming from. You can't embark on one thing minus the other. It's just that, the two go hand
Okay.
in hand. You know, um, when you're talking about coming back to our
All right.
schools, even coming back to our homes. Now, with you, whoever you are today, okay, you were born by your parents,
Yeah.
okay, and when you were born by your parents,
Sure.
they didn't give birth to you at the age of 14. You were a baby. And then whoever you are, lived at home, they took care of
Okay.
you, they took you through certain things that kind of shaped you. Same way in schools, when you start Holy Child or Prempeh or whatever, you don't go straight to sixth form, right? Unless you came from some other school. You came to Form 1, or, I don't know the system. Yeah, back then, yeah, Form 1 or JSS1, they will call it. And when you start, imagine you come in, you have, no, I won't call it no morals, but you don't know best. But as you go year one, year two, you come
Yeah.
and you see there are certain things in place. It helps. You see, when I bring in systems, what I'm trying to say is that it's just a way to kind of help me out, help you out. You see, system pretty much helps people out in a sense that
Okay.
it's like you have an area, a very expensive area there, or in an area. If you don't have, um, let's say it's not a gated community, right? But they've got all the nice houses, and even the nice houses, they don't have locks or doors or whatever. When people get to find out that this beautiful, expensive area have no locks, nothing in there, with time, what happens? People start to infiltrate and attempt burglary and all that.
Mm.
But when that area is there and they know even before you near it, you have to go through, a gated community, you have to go to a security guard. And when you get into the homes, some people have dogs, they have locks and all that. With time, even the thief does not even bother to, go there at all. If they do bother, then you have to do
That's right.
good planning. They have to really put something on the drawing board to execute their mission. You see what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is, by putting, I don't want us to
Mm.
talk things independently. Like talking about just the moral values, 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 but
Okay.
whatever it is, I want those two things to go hand in hand. Like you say, repetition makes, that's what really hits home.
Really.
So basically, I want, when we're driving these things to people, for them to understand that in everything, if these two things go hand in hand, and that aids, our value
Mm.
system to come in hand. Not just the fact that I'm a born again or this, that automatically makes me, produce something better. But it's just because these systems are in place, and at least it helps me
Okay.
out.
So I
Yeah.
think is very very clear now. Yeah. So they move,
Mhm.
they are co-joined, or they move hand in hand
Thank you.
simultaneously, one
Very
without
true.
the other. So a
Yes.
system control without quality values will
Yes.
not produce much. And then also a set of quality values which is just set loose without a system control will also not be able to see the light of glory. At least you may get some few
Excellent.
people
Yeah.
who through those propagation they may be able to naturally do things without the threat of the law. But at least we are human beings, as we are not,
Yeah.
we cannot be always right. There may be
Yes,
temptations
sir.
and times that we may be having the inclinations to move the other way around. Okay, so I think now I want us to be a bit more practical when it comes to the subject of the system controls, at the
Mhm.
personal level, and then at the corporate level. Then maybe we can take it at the national level. Now, so first, maybe I want us to start at the personal level. Are there any practical elements? For instance, I have read a book, or I have heard a preacher, or just as we are doing, we have been talking about a set of quality values like respect for human life, value for
Yeah.
time, and then all those stuffs. So now I've come into contact with an information or a value
Mhm.
which, upon explanation, I find it very necessary that if I imbibe it, it is going to be of help to me. How do I, so we want to start at the personal level, then we go to the corporate, then maybe finally at the national level.
So at the personal level, how do I? Are there any practical ways to go by that in order to instill this newfound whether value or information into my should I say my daily life? Will it come with a touch of discipline? What way can you walk us through any brief practical ways we can do that at the personal level? The potential challenges and how to go by it, especially in our African context.
Mm, yeah. At a personal level, our it makes me come back
Mm,
to where we were raised. When I say where we were raised, we all come from homes, and homes had some form of discipline.
sure.
You see, some people say, "Hey, Charlie,
Yeah.
na me papa." Wonim now a by another hell will break loose, this, that. So at a personal
Yeah.
level, all I'm saying is there should be some rules and consequences. You see, and when we say consequences, this is what makes everyone plays a role. So imagine, like, on a personal level,
Mm,
you're not expected to come home at a particular time, but you break the law, you break the rule,
yeah.
and then for either 2, 3 days consistently, you do not show up. Won't be in time, you show up late. And imagine, this rule was set by your mom or your dad, right? But then you broke these rules two, three, 4 times.
Yeah.
But guess what? Your mom, dad, there was no repercussion. They didn't really do anything. You do that again the following Saturday. There was a jams somewhere, and you went. You came back, and really all that you had was talk, 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 talk. They blast you. This, that, that, that. Your auntie came in. You can't be mal, or
Nothing
your uncle
happened.
came. They said
Yeah.
something for you, and it didn't really turn out anything. So fast forward 6 months, a year, two. What do you think you turn out to become? Things that you go back to your old
Mm,
ways, or new ways, or whatever. But when there are consequences, meaning when something happened and your mom or dad steps in, or let's assume even your uncle comes in, he visited and had that, and he even pulled a cane and whipped you. Now when I relate this to the real world, then this is what happens when things come in. Then you ask yourself that where are the lawyers? Where are the auditors? Where are the blah blah blah? We have profession in all
mm,
areas, and you want to make use of all of
yeah.
them. So if you are not making use of them, and this is relating to, you've got this uncle, you've got this auntie who shares the same value as your mom and dad, and you did something wrong, and you came home, and for
Mm,
some reason your mom, dad
that's
did
right.
not do anything, your uncle too did not do anything, then guess what? You're going wayward. So the same way in a value system, that's why we went to school. People became lawyers. People became this, that, that. So you realize, you ask yourself that why are they all not being utilized? Because in other places, as soon as you do something, there are people knocking at your door, hitting your door, asking that, hey, do you need my help? Let's assume something just happened. There's a fire that, you know, um, a fire that occurs somewhere in my workplace or somewhere. The next following day, they are ringing. These lawyers and all that are calling all these tenants in the, trying to investigate, figure out if the landlord, whoever owned this,
Wow.
and whether they had certain things, they did not have certain things in place. And say, yeah, yeah, I'm not an expert. The lawyer is an expert.
Mm,
I leave everything to him. He or she will come in and assess everything, make a case. Now he, or the making the sicker, he'll make a case. He will even charge me. He will even charge me for the time he or she spent on my case. But he just made it possible that at the end, if he wins the case, he's taking 70% of it. So guess what? The more money he wants, the more he's going to fight for it. So here's a situation: you are putting everyone in use. That's why they went to school. You see,
Yeah.
so when you don't have all this in place, if one will ask, oh, a few things that have occurred in the past in Ghana, in your let's go back and take stock and see what happened. Where did they end up? Who was, what accountability normally here? If you don't have all data, then you expect to progress? No. So at the end of the day, you get hungry lawyers, you get hungry this, you get health inspectors who are hungry. No one is doing their job. That is why when we come to even employment, employment is not me just coming to build some factories and then employ people. When you learn economics, it's
Mm.
self-triggering, a trigger.
Mm.
So let's assume I have intention of, I know I'm driven off, but let's say I have intention of manufacturing car tires, may car tires, and they factory, I want me so I'm a person. How do you think I can progress? Let it car
Yeah.
factory, I mean tire factory, no boom. What will make it boom is a chain of reaction in a sense that now, no, that the Emraba say they are inspecting all taxis, all cars, or be a private or any their tires. If your tire thread in your tire, no, you're below maybe 65% there, you'll be fined. And I say you'll be taken off the road. So guess what? People will be forced
Mm.
to go purchase new tire. Now, what is the triggering effect? The effect is the fact that I feel the business I'm trying to produce, manufacture tires, it will boom. You see, so it will be creating more jobs and more
Boom. Yeah.
employment. And this is how it is. When we say job, way so yeah, it creates more job. And just like the gun in yeah, you see, and you need people to work. What you want to do is employ people. You pay them initially. You'll be like, Minisika, I don't have enough. Maybe 100,000 is what you need to pay all of them. But then, with the more, you make sure say you are not giving them cash for them to go and put it in a more bare side. You are making sure say bank na more, and all of them are going to be direct deposited into the account. It's at any point in time, although the bank has given or been paid employees, about 85% of their money is still in the bank anyway, and the bank is using it to run,
Yeah.
to do things. So that is how, when we're thinking of generating employment, every day people should be thinking of new ways to do stuff. Just as 419 for now, in their way, your man, the following day they'll sit down and think of something else to come up to rob you, right? That is basically how everything is. Everything we need to be
Yeah.
thinkers.
Yeah.
Every time we should be thinking of solutions. And that is what creates employment and let things roll. I'm not drifted, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, great. Okay. So, for instance,
Hmm.
the point of the car tie that you used, a
Hmm.
perfect example of that. And you can see that we have a lot of internal issues. Yes, because,
Hmm.
and I like the point that it is not just about pumping money into the economy. It is not just about just merely superficially establishing businesses in the name of
Yes.
creating jobs. Once there are some of these internal issues, like problems with system control, and then problems with value systems, and then all, we could create the jobs. By the end of the day, we'll be having something different. But just a quick one, you will
Hmm.
realize that some, or we may not have all, but down here in Ghana and then most African countries, the
Right.
idea or the various institutions that were designed as part of civil service to be regulatory, which maybe in your
Hmm.
context will have the charge of the system control, like that of the
Right.
auditors. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know that education, they have education leaders who are to go around and then check up on the teachers, check up on what they are
Right.
teaching, and then those kind of stuff, even the exercises, homeworks, as minute as those stuff. So it's like we seem to have the structures, even if not all, the some of the agencies that have been technically designed to be regulatory, which maybe the
Mm-hmm.
system control that. Is it that it is not functional? Is it that we need something more than that? Or the people in, because we know our context, the auditor comes,
Yeah.
he takes something,
Yeah.
and then instead of doing what ought to be done, he just brushes it off. Now,
Yeah.
should the approach be getting an external, or should I say a second level of auditor to the
Yeah.
first level of auditor? And then with that, to what extent becomes it? Because if the other person is
Okay.
also usually corrupt,
Yeah.
and then by the
Yeah.
time you realize you'll be having almost 10 to 20 levels. I don't know if you get my point. So can you clarify
Exactly.
that?
And
Is it
yeah, exactly.
more
Yeah,
of,
sure. I
I
see where
mean,
you're coming from.
other levels,
Yeah.
people, or what? Great,
Yeah.
great.
And I see exactly now when we say system controls and all that, of course, it's it's very ineffective if there's collusion and all that. Okay. Systems as good as it can be if there's
Okay.
collusion. Okay, so this is where you begin to think. Now, you
Yeah.
here say you have an institution, okay? You have
Yeah.
you have Mr. Bafo, Mr. Nim, Mr. This. He knows him, Onim no, he knows him already. And say, even if I come and I check Dr. When you cry, me who said there's some faults and all that, man, I'll cut you a slack. I'm like, minimal. Yeah, 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 back on your mind, and that's it. That is
Yeah.
pretty much what's going on, right? Okay. So if let's say when you are thinking systems, what happens is you are always trying to be creative. So I have this institution, Ministry of, housing. Definitely, you have Ministry of Housing. There's one in Who. There's one in Accra. There's one
Yeah.
in maybe Cape Coast. There's one in this. So here's a case where now this is thinking that I'm trying to bring where that's where you have to think and try to change or mitigate some of these issues you are trying to bring. What can I do to reduce this level of
Okay.
pollution? Because I know Doc, he's my old time buddy. Okay, so when we talk about systems, sometimes what it is let me use like a license or we'll apply a license. Okay, so I'm going to
As in
apply for a
driver's
license.
license.
Yeah, let's say a driver's license or apply a license for some land or whatever. So
Okay.
definitely, maybe they have things that they require. Meaning, maybe will birth certificate, will weigh, will Ghana card, will this, your this. There's a few things that you have to have in place to be able
Yeah.
to, you know, formalize and finish up and
Yeah.
obtain the license. Okay, but here we have Mr. A knows Mr. B, Mr. B knows Mr. C. We can all do that. So Uber channel, you can just produce your Ghana card, but with no birth certificate. Then I'm like, it's okay. What Ghana card? It's good enough.
Yeah.
Now, okay. So how do we fix that? How do we fix a scenario like this? This one, when you come in and you think, you're like, okay, we have driver's license plates at Accra. We have one at Who. We have one at Winchi. We have one at here. This, that, that, that. So now what's going to happen is when you apply for it, this is where automation sometimes come in. When I apply in Accra, the system would require that, I have all these 4, 5 things in place. Now, someone needs to approve it because a system is done
Yeah.
such that if someone doesn't approve it, it will not happen. Now, when we say approve, how do you approve? A system will have to put in your initial. If you are Joshua, or power is JP, JO, maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 before you can log in. But the system should be such that when you put in the
Yeah.
approval, the system should be able to randomize it, whereby the approval, you cannot predict where the approval will come from. Maybe the approval will fall into the hands of someone at WA to approve it. So imagine you're there and I'm trying to
Okay.
collect bribe from you. Now, when my J will birth certificate did that, but I did not get your Ghana card. I'll put in everything. When when I push it into the system, I do not even have a clue who is going to the next level of approval, where it's going to go. It's going to go to Cape Coast, and I don't know who is there. So that kind of reduces that fact that I need to make sure I have everything in place. So that person at Cape Coast or WA, when they log in the morning, there's things come up to show that I have like 50 items in my queue to approve. And that 50 item, one is coming from Accra, one is coming from Cape
Mm,
Coast, one
mm.
is coming from here. So you have randomized this whole thing and you have kind of reduced that
Okay.
possibility of collusion. Until me, I'm at one district. I'm looking at JO, 1, 2, 3, 4. I looked at it and I'm like, it doesn't have a birth certificate, this, that, and I'll reject it. And even the system can do it in such a way that I wouldn't even know it came from Accra district. It won't just go. I'll have to, because every time I say Accra, I might call the Accra branch and let that person know that, hey, you say Joshua, J.O. see him through. You better sort you out. We'll sort you out. But the system will
Yeah,
make
man,
it
yeah,
so
man.
that you would not even be able to know where that approval this thing is coming from.
Wow.
So you see, when you think about that, it helps with time. So let's fast forward it 5 years, 10 years in such an institution. But say morals no be very yes, and the panel were sorry, all night 100 times until I feel behavior.
Mm,
It is just not possible for me to approve something. This is how it is. So that is like an example of when you
mm.
put in system in place, you're always developing it. So you are taking the human element out of it. I'll say temptation, it won't happen. Because if I'm going to follow Wa to Yenchi to another,
Mm.
now be making phone call, come on, it's not even worth the cost benefit analysis. It's not worth it. So with time,
Another
people will
stress.
heed to it. Yes. So that's an example of a fix, that can be done.
So it means it can be perfected once. Um, um, but okay, because what you are describing
Mhm.
sounds a bit sophisticated.
I
I
know
don't
that's
know,
what I
especially
know that's what you
relative
say.
to.
You start. Let me tell you this. That's why in the like people are going to embassy in Kano in the 90s and 80s. When you're going, they look at passports. We do Heathrow and LBDI. They look at passport, your face, and they try to check. But they've developed all the way to biometric. They started from somewhere. Look, my dad is 90 years. As
Okay.
at the 50s, when he went to UK, they were still no more traffic lights. I echo eba mekai used to make fun, on the bodies. Or yes, yeah, who crossing? What do you mean? Who crossing? Traffic lights. No, this was way back in the 40s, 50s. Things were still in place, although they were manual and all that.
Okay.
Now in Newma, when you go to UK in the 50s,
Mm,
40s, it was still in place. Just said the way Omoye said that time. No, I remember he said when he finished and they had to his first car he bought out from his or Konya the driver's license now. They Usha, the same principle. There was nothing like you go, you bribe or be. it was still there. So they grow and develop
Mm,
into, that's why it gets into.
okay.
That's why I said, that's why I came back to the very first thing, that even if I come and I say, hey, Christianity has done a lot. They build schools, they build hospitals. They did not just build hospitals and left them there for that thing to naturally operate. In the hospital
Yeah.
now, they built, they put systems in place. They did not rely on the fact that they are
That's
Anglican
true.
or, they put systems in place. Even the Muslim, look around, no whether in the Muslim countries, look around, if they build hospitals or they build schools, you can see that a Muslim school and a Christian school, they have the same value, meaning almost exams are either there's an invigilator, there is this, certain things are key. You don't say
Mm,
that,
mm,
these guys are Hindus or whatever. So you know what, let's not put this thing in place. There are certain things you put in place irrespective.
mm. Great, 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 great. I mean, this has been very enlightening with my brother and friend, my senior boss, Richardson. We thank you very, very, very much. Just one or two of you ask before
Thank you
we
for having
fold
me.
up. So in that case, where do we start from or begin? Are you creating or suggesting that,
Hmm.
because this seemed to be a bit more of a top-down approach,
Right.
in terms of the prevailing leaders, and then all maybe enforcing it, talking about it, building the systems, and then enforcing it, getting into rush. So is it, when it comes to the issue of the system control, and together with what we are doing in terms of nation building and all, is it purely a top-down approach, meaning until the leaders do it, there is little that can be done, or apart from the leaders, there could be certain alternatives? That is, if the leaders
Yeah.
are not having whether the political will or whatever reason why they may not be advancing that, because I believe that
Mhm.
um, these things you are talking about, some or most of our
Right.
leaders have had experiences there. Either they've stayed there a bit or they've traveled
Right.
outside there. They've seen these systems at play. Why
Right.
is it not a bit more natural that they'll see the need for that to implement here? That is the first aspect. And then the second aspect is,
Hmm.
is it a purely top-down approach that on the leaders do it, or there's practically nothing that can be done? Our hope is to get that mechanic who will take us to the promised land, and then
Yeah.
take on that.
I would, yeah. I would say, it's both, in a sense that, coming from the down up approach, what I will always say is the youth. When I say the youth, which you're doing, um, one of the key things we have to look at is our school curriculum. You know, there are certain things that we really need to
Okay.
inject into our school system as far as what we need, in the sense that, everyone has a sickness, a weakness. Now, when we look at Africa, or Ghana to be precise, our weakness is, what we're facing, either corruption, ethics, values, and all that. So my question is, if I run a school
Yeah.
system, I run an educational system, how am I going to prioritize my curriculum? In a sense that, we've always had maths,
Okay.
biology, English, this, that as the key thing.
Science.
If I'm trying
Yeah.
to fix something, it means, honestly, if certain things used to, let's say English, Obia English, Obia maths, fine. Why not, since I know this is my sickness and disease, no, why not now make values, ethics, fraud, things you need to say, that are the key downfalls or the key threats to our nation. Why don't we change and then make those the core
Uh,
subjects? Because I would prefer that to English or even math or anything like that.
yeah.
Because to me, that is that is our weakness. So why not focus? I mean, that should be something
Yeah.
where, GCA, however they call it, those are common trans or whatever, that should be a subject also biatro and everyone needs to buy. It should be a core subject that runs through. So they have to analyze. That's the way I look
Which
at it.
subject is that?
So ethics, values, like control, system controls of
Okay.
fraud, anti-fraud, anti-fraud prevention. All these things for some reasons, these are areas
Okay.
that you have to pursue, like accounting and forensic accounting before you come in. But to me, anything you can reduce it to the class one level to train people. Just as when we come to math
Rest
and
me
all that
exactly.
calculus, it goes to
Exactly.
the 100th degree of maths or physics. But then you can break it down to the very bare minimum, like biology will start here. So the same way you need to let people look at it, and then values, culture, like the things that you always preach about and talk about. These should be like the core subjects,
Mm,
and they shouldn't be just, they should be core. Just from nursery, class one, GSS, that should, if you don't pass it, you are not even going to SSS. You don't pass it, you're not going. It's like we should prioritize it more than maths. Because in the same crowd with artificial intelligence, there are certain things, that when you spit it in, you can get the answers or whatever. But values and all that, you cannot just spit it and have it give you values or give you morals or so to say. So we have to readdress our whole educational system. And then when you look at it, I mean, within a short time, these people are going to grow. When I look at people born in the 80s or whatever, today they are all what, in their late 30s or mid 30s or entering to 40s. So imagine you start like that. These are
big
people
men
who
and
will
women.
champion, yeah. So that's the way I see it. Like they have to look into these fields and let it
Mm,
fix and address our problem. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we'll especially with the subject of, as you said, anti-fraud systems, ethics, values, and then all that. And then
Mm,
the change or the impact will be very phenomenal if, just as you said, we design it in such a way that right from nursery it is broken down to their level, it is taught them,
right.
practicalized, and then all through. So by the time the person completes, even with JHS at the JHS level, a lot has
Yeah.
been invested into the person. That these are
Thinking.
the
Yep.
foundations that builds a nation, and it will do a lot. It will do a lot. So it's a very strong point that you've raised. So with that, so now the difference I want to, or the perspective I want to look at is that if, because these things, they are preferably to be
Hmm.
conducted by like maybe Ghana Education Service, Ministry for Education, and then all.
Right.
Now
Okay.
they may be slow in those kind of stuffs, either through ignorance or most possibly they may know, but they have their own
Yeah.
priorities. So
That's
in
right.
that sense, is there an alternative that could also start generating? It may not be wide and intense if it is to be done from the government machinery, which actually
Right.
they should have done it. But now, for
Right.
instance, maybe you tender in a proposal to Ghana Education Service, they tell you that we will consider it, and then it is just gathering dust because it's not part of their priorities. Is there
Right.
anything that can be done still in the light of what you are saying, that
Yes.
still some a section of people, whether a pilot program, a
Right.
non-governmental approach, to still get some people, even if it is not widely spread as of that time, but at least beginning somewhere, as
Mm-hmm.
against really I was buying here. Ya troka
Yeah.
ta komo. Almost say
Which will
omunis
never happen.
kama.
Yeah.
So now we fold our arms that until we get
Yeah.
a leader who is interested in building these things into the educational system, then what next? Yeah. So can
Yeah.
you
Okay.
fine tune it a bit? Yeah.
Okay. So I know it's in the spot. I have to think, but this where we have to think. So this is a question you pose, like, okay, yaka yaka yaka. I've said it. I've said it. I've said it. But how do we get
Yeah.
it across? How do we implement it? How do we send our message across? So, I hear a
Yeah.
lot of, you're not the only person with this passion, or you're in the system. You are not the only person seeing
Yeah.
where the system or the country is heading to. I believe you and many, many, many
Yeah.
more share the same value. You know, okay. So I know in the past there's been little demonstrations here and there. Okay. Now, when I bring out the word demonstration, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
instigate anything or whatever. But when we say demonstration, we have some that are very positive. Demonstration pretty much is trying to bring an awareness
Sure.
of a consensus of people with a burden in their heart. So now I'm
Mm.
saying this. What I'm saying is not the best of thing, but we are all thinkers. We're thinking whatever I say might not work, but we are
Yeah.
looking at if sometimes you hear of demonstrations, you hear of these people trying to do stuff to get their concerns out there. How about
Yeah.
embarking on this same demonstration, but in a sense that you are proposing
Mm.
this kind of ideology, you see, because you are having,
Okay.
you are proposing these solutions. Sometimes that's the way I see it. As far as we all know, these guys don't listen, they don't care, and all that. Instead of me demonstrating in other violent way, either hey, a comedy, they've chopped our money, they did, but rather putting these things across so that either coming together, all the other sectors, all those who are. One thing I noticed about Ghana, everyone is complaining, but I don't think people are together. To me, you're all singing one
Yeah.
song. It's just that people are, some are sitting in ships, some are sitting in cars, some are sitting in bicycles and all that. But if you
Yeah.
can all come together, I will encourage that, irrespective of
Yeah.
the differences
Partnerships,
between any
collaboration.
of you can sometimes reach out and always make forth and let the two agree that at the end of the day, I speak Italian, you speak German, you speak, Dutch, but it looks like yɛn nyinaa na comedy here. That is the focus. We want something to change. If people can come and have that
Yeah.
consensus and then agree, and you're like, okay, what Dutch, and I'm more nkurɔfoɔ a believe in anything. This is the subject. However you want to go channel it and proclaim it, can you please do? But just go
Mm.
with this message. That this message is that we need the curriculum, we need the education system to change. Most Hindu
Yeah.
this is the message. You carry and proclaim that message, push it. We too will be doing the same thing. You see, that is what to
Mm.
me. Then this education service or whoever that are buying all the sectors, they will realize that okay, we have these people are pressing or pushing on one thing, and then the
United
pressure,
force. Yeah.
So Yeah, so this is what I can think of my head. It's not, the best solution, whatever, but I'm just, we're all think tankers. We're trying to think and, propose something. Yeah.
Mm,
So yeah, that's what I can think
great,
we can do.
great. I mean, I think it is great, especially when it comes to, and that is uh, almost every level has its own challenges, and that is
Most
one thing
definitely.
which unfortunately is not common with the black man, especially partnerships, collaborations,
Yeah.
and then all, because
Yeah.
of quest for supremacy, competitive elements in terms
True.
of those kind of some of those stuff. So sometimes
Yes.
it becomes more individualistic. You could see that when
That's
God
right.
there is power, there is that synergistic capacity in partnership in order to pull
Mm.
a common goal. There may be differences, religious differences, I mean, even philosophical differences, but just as you said,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we have a common we are fighting a common enemy, and that is corruption, poor
Yeah.
governance,
Yeah.
and then just name it. Yes, but
Yeah.
sometimes the attachment of emotions and then quest for supremacy, and then I'm the one who did it first, and then all that becomes a limitation. And even with businesses and then
Mm.
all, so you find that down here, when it comes to businesses, when it comes to ministries, when it comes to element of mergers or partnerships and collaborations, is
Mm-hmm.
another wahala. Every level you get to comes with a new devil,
That,
but
that's right.
we will
Absolutely
definitely,
right.
yeah.
But
So thank you very
my
very much.
main thing
Thank you
of
very very
today is just to
yeah.
throw this thoughts into the minds, to your minds, that we shouldn't just restrict it to just the morals alone. It's yeah, yeah, we are human. When the baby
Good.
bring me in this so kakra, guess what will fall. When you flash some maize on our face, we will fall and hit to and say, let's think about the systems. Yeah.
Mm. Around the system controls. It perfectly makes sense, and we'll have deeper discussions around that, and then at least things that can be started within our capacities. I think that we'll also look at that. So thank you once again, and then maybe I don't know if you would want to give your final word before you close.
Oh, not a whole lot of nothing much, but yeah, we all in together. Let's think holistically and not personalize. Anything. Let's say just um, the, I know there's a Christian, background, but I'll always say that when you don't have things in place, it makes morals very challenging. You just want to systems and processes are
Mm,
just things to kind of take that element of exercising moral judgment down, just to help people. So anyway, that's all I can say.
okay. Thank you very, very, very much. And we'll continue our discourse backstage. And we wish you speedy recovery as well, so
Thank
that you
you.
can
Thanks a lot.
revert to work. All the best. All
Thank
right. All right.
you. All right.
So, all right. So, this has been a great addition, although I couldn't really even touch on exactly what I wanted to go through, but it has been very, very, very enlightening. This is Kweku Richardson. He happens to be in the USA, and then he's one of the stakeholders of the new African concept. and we thank God for men like these who believe in this vision, and then we are willing to push and then advance. I believe you have learned a lot of stuff with what we are talking about. So for the summary for today is that value systems, without piping it through a well-planned system, will yield very little. And then system controls, which is void of quality values, will also lead to decay. So this is our take-home message from our discourse with Richardson. So let's say I was coming from the value side, he is coming from the system side. Then they are not meant to be mutually exclusive. They are rather meant to be working hand in hand. So the values, without passing it through system, that is a well-programmed system, will not be yielding very much. And at the same time, if you are having any system, just as we have, but it is void of quality values, we will be getting the same results and rewards. Whatever values we are praying for, or we have been talking about, value for time, blah, 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 we must pipe it through a system so that the people, because we said that Ghana and Africa is beyond change, or not change necessarily, is beyond repairs. It must be literally reconstructed. We must pass the entirety of the nation through a serious reprogramming. And that is where system controls. You cannot talk of reprogramming without system controls. You must talk of how you are going to meet them, how you are going to do that. I mean, how you are going to pipe it through their music, through movies, through skits, through the educational system, as I was talking about, and several other kinds. So we wish that God will help us, and then we ourselves will also come up together. This has been another edition of the Voice of Reformation, and this is your friend Joshua, and this is the New African Concept. I'll stand on to throw an invitation to all of you that as you listen and then follow these arguments, we have only one heart, that Ghana will change, that Africa will also change. If you share with us this heart, then you can join this movement, so that together we'll be able to build a new nation, Ghana, and then a new continent, Africa. As we have always said, we have a world to shake, we have a continent to liberate, that is Africa. We have a nation to save, that is Ghana, and most definitely we have the church also to reform. Stay blessed till we come your way next week.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Lift every voice. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Hi, I'm Joshua Ponsafo of the New African Concept. I believe strongly that you've been blessed so far with the various episodes of the Voice of Reformation. And I'm very much excited to inform you that with the next 3 months ahead, February, March, and then April, there is a special package in the area of apologetics. I know you have several questions on your mind, and so do I. For the month of February, we'll be considering the subject area of the Bible. So questions like, is the Bible truly the Word of God, or it is just a figment of human beings? And that, how did we even arrive at getting our Bible today? Are there various versions of the Bible? And how did we even get that? And are they the same? Are they similar? Or they are different? In the month of March, we'll also be looking at the subject of black skepticism. I believe you've heard and seen that there is a new wave that is called the woke or black consciousness, the new form of Pan-Africanism, where they are hitting strongly that for Africa to advance, we must do away with everything called religion, particularly the Christian faith. Was Christianity carved by the white man in order to rule or manipulate the black man? Is it true that we have the Bible and in several churches doing the biddings of the white man? Is it even true that Christianity impedes growth or otherwise? Join me this and every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Voice of Reformation as we look at these subjects. We have able facilitators, the likes of Elder Emmanuel Emisa, Pastor Jacob Honey, Pastor Patrick, Mark Edubuating, and then Kafui Tay. The good thing is also that the last Friday of every month, you get an opportunity to join in by bringing on board your questions so that we ask them for serious interactions. I believe that with all these interactions, the ultimate goal is that Ghana and by extension Africa will be liberated and saved. See ya.
Lift every voice.